Hi guys, it's Arielle. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. I already know that this podcast is going to be going out late. I'm usually pretty good about having the podcast up every single Monday. But honestly, last week was the most chaotic week that I've had in a while and also the most emotionally draining. And I've been putting off filming because I just didn't know how I wanted to talk about everything, and I also didn't want to relive some of the things of last week because when you talk about them, then it's like at the forefront of your mind again, and I just wanted to move on. But yeah, so that's why this podcast is going out late. I think it's been hard to figure out what I want to talk about and, what I want to say about everything. So yeah, all of that personal stuff is going to come at the end of this podcast because we also had the opening ceremony of the Olympics last week, and I kind of want to talk about that. So if you're just interested in hearing about Paris and the Olympic ceremony, then I figure we get that over with at the start, and then you can just click off if you don't want to hear about the personal stuff. But yeah, I also will mention that it is boiling hot in my apartment. It is 33 degrees. I have like my little thermometer in front of me, and I have it in front of me because before I sat down to film, I had all of the blinds shut. I had the windows open a crack, like just to let in fresh air, but all the blinds were closed and blocking out the sun. But I opened everything to film this to obviously have some natural light and not to film in the dark. But I'm worried that in doing that, my apartment is just going to get hotter and hotter. So yeah, it is very hot in Paris at the moment. It's just the sun beating down. I'm a little bit worried for my basil plants. but yeah, so if I look a little bit sweaty, it's because I am. I have a nice glass of ice cold water here. So the Olympic ceremony, let's talk about it. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was very unique and very creative, but I also think that there were a lot of historical and pop culture references that would have been really hard to understand, from an international perspective, which is maybe something to consider when you're organizing the opening ceremony of the Olympics, because I do think there wasn't a lot of explanation around these references that would have been lost on an international community. But I did think it was really well done. But I want to start by talking about probably the most memorable moment for me, which was when Axel Saint-Cyril, she's a French lyrical singer, she sang the Marseillaise, which is the French national anthem, from the roof of the Grand Palais in this beautiful French flag gown. And as she was singing, my jaw was on the floor. It was just this perfect mix of everything, from the image of this beautiful and powerful woman standing all alone on the rooftop of this architectural masterpiece, this historically significant French building, singing the national anthem. And she's just such a talented singer. I actually could not believe at how beautifully she sang. I don't think I've ever heard another singer sing so beautifully. It was just it was a really moving moment. And of course, Celine Dion's performance was incredible as well. But we knew that Celine Dion was rehearsing the night before on the Eiffel Tower. We kind of knew that her performance was coming. So you're looking forward to that all throughout the ceremony. And so I think that was a little bit less memorable for me because I knew it was coming. And I've obviously heard some of Celine Dion's songs before, and I've heard her performances and stuff, whereas Axel Saint-Cyril I had never heard of. And so that's why the national anthem really stuck out to me. But yeah, Celine Dion was also amazing. It's incredible that it was her first performance in 4 years. Again, it was so powerful to be singing, I don't know, in such an incredible piece of French architecture. It was all just very powerful, and I loved the song that she sang. It's L'Hymne à l'amour, which is a song by Edith Piaf, which is a song about love and how powerful love can be and what you would do for love. So I thought it was very fitting. And yeah, both of those performances were, I think the word that best describes them is powerful. Like, these women are obviously so talented. They were so beautiful. Their performances were perfection. But I think it was the image of these women, standing in or on these French architectural masterpieces and performing. It felt very powerful and very moving. So both of those performances just blew my mind. I also thought that the performance by Gojira, I think that's how you pronounce their name, they're the heavy metal French band, I thought that was awesome. And I thought it was awesome for so many reasons. Again, this is a huge reference to French history because you start this performance with a decapitated Marie Antoinette who is singing the very famous revolutionary chant Ça ira, and the headless Marie Antoinette sings Ah, ça ira, ça ira, ça ira, les aristocrates à la lanterne, ah, ça ira, ça ira, ça ira, les aristocrates on les pendra, and that last line is essentially will hang the aristocrats. So it really is very much linked with the French Revolution. And I'm not sure if you guys have ever visited La Conciergerie in Paris. I highly recommend that you do. It's one of my favorite museums, my favorite buildings. But that is where Marie Antoinette was sort of held in prison during the trials and all that during the French Revolution. And so I thought that combination, the heavy metal band with the French Revolution symbolism, was, again, very powerful. And I thought the performance was amazing. I'm not a huge fan of heavy metal, and I'd never heard of this band before, but oh my gosh, 100 out of 10. I thought it was such a good performance. I thought as well that Juliette Armenet's rendition of Imagine by John Lennon with the flaming piano floating down the Seine was, again, very moving. It was like, I don't know, they performed it in the dark, and I think that added to how moving that performance was. And I'm not sure if it was like this across all television channels, but at the end of the performance, I don't remember the words exactly, but it was something like, we call for peace, or France calls for peace. And I thought that was, very important to add at the end of this song, like, given the context of what's going on around the world. So I thought that was really nice. And I also loved the golden statues. There were 10 golden statues of French heroines that had, really impacted French history and French culture. And when I was looking this up after, I didn't know this, but in Paris, there are 260 statues of men and only 40 statues of women. And so what I understand is that these statues were made for the Olympic ceremony, but they're also going to be gifted to the city of Paris, to add to add more female figures to the collection of statues that are scattered throughout Paris, and to show that there were also these amazing and powerful women who had a huge impact on France. I also think that people got a little bit too controversial about the drag queen performance and Philippe Catherine. He is a French singer, songwriter, actor, artist. And if you guys were watching the ceremony, I think the part that was like, oh my gosh, that people really misinterpreted from what I was seeing online. You have Philippe Catherine, who is nude, painted in blue, and this was actually supposed to represent Dionysus? Why can't I pronounce that properly? But the Greek god Dionysus of wine and festivities in the Feast of the Gods painting. And Philippe Catherine also said that he got inspiration from some paintings of the very first Olympic Games in Greece that he was looking at, where the athletes performed nude. And so that was his inspiration for, this reinterpretation of the Feast of the Gods painting for the Olympic ceremony. Now, there were a few things that I was a little bit disappointed by during the opening ceremony. The first thing that I was just a tiny bit disappointed by was Aya Nakamura's performance. And I am a big fan that she performed. I think it's great to showcase French talent. She's a very talented singer. The reason why I'm disappointed is because a couple weeks before the Olympics opening ceremony, she opened the Vogue World Show. And during this performance, she was stunning. And I felt like that performance really showcased her talent as a musician. And I felt in contrast, her performance at the Olympic ceremonies was maybe not as, I don't know. I don't know what the words are. I don't know exactly what I'm feeling, but I just felt like her Vogue performance was incredible. And just to compare with the Olympic opening ceremony performance, it felt a little bit less prepared, maybe. I don't know. But I also did think that performing with La Garde Républicaine, which is the French National Guard, I thought that was great. I thought that was a fun way to mix music with the French National Guard. I don't know, I really like that. And then, don't come for me, but I was the most disappointed by Lady Gaga's performance, which was an interpretation of Mon Truc en Plume de Zizi Jeanmaire. And the reason why I was incredibly disappointed by this is because Lady Gaga essentially opened the Olympic ceremony. Like, the first words that she said were bonsoir, bienvenue à Paris, good evening and welcome to Paris. She's welcoming the world to this Olympic ceremony. And I just wish that they had given that opportunity or showcased talent from France. Like, during the Olympics, you are given this huge stage, and I just think, why not give your own artists that opportunity? I thought it was very strange that someone who wasn't born in France or who didn't really have any ties to France was opening this Olympic ceremony. Like, if this sounds crazy, think of it this way. The Olympics are coming to the US, the Summer Olympics are coming to LA in 4 years. Can you imagine if for the Olympic ceremony in the United States, they have Drake open the ceremony, or Michael Bublé, or Aya Nakamura? Like, wouldn't that be kind of weird? And not only did they open the ceremony, but they opened it, like, if we're thinking of a French artist that opened the Olympic ceremony for the United States, imagine they performed a song with a very heavy accent, making the words almost incomprehensible. Like, I don't know, that just wouldn't happen. I'm sure that for the Olympic ceremony in LA in 4 years, they're going to give the stage and the opportunity to a talented American artist. And I was just so surprised and disappointed that they didn't do that for a French artist. And I think as well, like, don't get me wrong, I think Lady Gaga is incredibly talented. She is creative. Like, I don't know. What's a bigger word than talented? She's got it all, right? She's a great artist, but she's not French. And I know, like, she said that she put a lot of work into learning the language and learning the pronunciation, but there were a lot of words that you couldn't understand. Like, when she was singing, there was a significant amount of the lyrics that you couldn't understand. Even Jean, like, we were sitting on the couch watching, and Jean was like, I don't know what she's singing. And it's like, it's not her fault. French isn't her first language. But if they really wanted Lady Gaga to perform, maybe it should have been in an English song, or maybe if they wanted Mon Truc en Plume to be the opening song, it should have been a French artist. I don't know. I just was disappointed that they didn't give the stage to a French artist for the opening act. I was truly shocked by that. And something else, I mean, I wasn't disappointed by this because as you guys know, it's been an incredibly rainy summer in Paris. But the opening ceremony was especially rainy, and it was quite unfortunate because the days before was pretty good weather, and then 2 days afterwards we're back to this sunny, hot weather. So, man, the odds were just not in their favor because it was truly torrential downpour on the evening of the Olympic ceremony. And as I'm watching these boats of athletes, like top athletes who are performing these huge, in these huge competitions for international recognition, you have all of these athletes on these boats in the pouring rain for hours. Like, the journey to get from the start to the end was, I think, 6 kilometers, and then you're still outside in the rain for the rest of the ceremony. And I was just thinking, if that was me, I would be so sick the day after. I hope that being in the rain didn't affect anyone's performance or anything like that, but like, oh man, I really felt for those athletes on the boats in the pouring rain, although they all looked like they were having a great time. It is a moment of celebration, so I'm sure everyone had a really good time. But then I also felt really bad for everyone who was watching the opening ceremony in person. I felt bad for a couple reasons. I mean, number one, of course, it was pouring rain for the entire time. I'm sure everybody left absolutely soaked. But on top of that, because the Olympic ceremony was, moving along the Seine, you didn't really get to see the performances. I think most people were seeing the performances on screen. And there were performances like Lady Gaga's, for example, that was pre-recorded. So even though you could see the staircase where she performed, if you bought tickets to watch the ceremony, I mean, I saw a lot of discourse of people who did pay money for those tickets. You actually didn't get to see Lady Gaga perform because it was all pre-recorded. So you had to watch her performance on the big screen. And yeah, just all of these other performances, like the heavy metal band, at the Conciergerie, unless you have tickets across from the Conciergerie, you're not going to see that performance live, as opposed to if it was in an arena, you would see everything. So yeah, I did see a lot of people who weren't super jazzed about having paid so much money for tickets to see the opening ceremony and having watched the majority of the ceremony on a big screen. But overall, I did really like the opening ceremony. I thought it was creative and unique and it was fun to watch. I mean, Jean and I really watched the whole thing. We were on the couch watching the whole thing for hours, and I'm sure I missed some other highlights. It was hard to go back and review everything because it was like an hours of performance. But if you guys watch it, let me know what you thought. I would love to know what the most memorable moment was for you. So yeah, I think that's all I have on the Olympics for the moment. Next week, Jean and I are going to our first sporting events to watch them live, which I think will be so fun. And I'm still trying to get tickets because I want to go so bad to either judo or taekwondo. I really want to watch one of the events in the Grand Palais. So we'll see. There's a lot of tickets that are still for sale. And it's nice because all of the tickets that are that go back on sale are at the price that they were purchased for. So you can have purchased a ticket for 20 euros and resell it for 300, which I think is great. So I'm keeping my eye on the resale tickets. I'll also leave it linked down below if you guys are interested. I was talking to my hairdresser the other week and she was telling me how disappointed she was that she couldn't get tickets for taekwondo for her daughter, or she didn't get tickets at the start when they went on sale. And I was like, oh my gosh, just look online. There are hundreds of tickets that are still available for every sport. You just have to look at the resale website, which is really well organized and stuff. So yeah, I'll leave it linked down below if you guys are curious. But I think that's it. I think that's all for my Olympic opening ceremony recap. Let's get into the personal topics. I gotta stay zen. Oh man, some of these things were so hard on me emotionally that I cried several times last week. While we're on the topic of the Olympic ceremony, because one of the incidents was linked with the opening ceremony, and I don't want to go into too much detail because, again, I don't want to spend an hour reliving, everything that unfolded. And I also don't want to blame anyone. Like, I'm probably making this sound more dramatic than it was, but essentially I had invited my friends over to watch the Olympic ceremony at our apartment. And our friend group is like 4 people. We're a solid friend group. We do a lot together. And we've had a lot of conversations about how much we mean to each other and how special our friend group is and stuff and all that. And we're all athletes, so it made sense to watch the opening ceremony and even to watch some of the games like throughout the week and stuff together. And so, yeah, it was kind of like a no-brainer for me to invite my group of friends over. And as soon as I sent the invite in our little group chat, immediately one person was like, "Oh, I can't, I'm busy." And then right behind that, another person was like, "Oh yeah, I got tickets to the opening ceremony and I'm going with one of our friends, so we can't come over." And then they continued by saying, "Oh yeah, I got 4 tickets to the Olympic ceremony." And I was just like, wow, I'm shocked. You got 4 tickets for free to the Olympic ceremony, and instead of bringing our friend group, which is a friend group of 4, you thought of me last. And I thought it was like very ironic because I was sending out this invitation for everyone to come over and watch the Olympic ceremony at my apartment, but it hadn't even crossed their mind to invite me to watch the Olympic ceremony with them. So it was very hurtful. And what I think was also hurtful is part of the reason why they didn't want to invite the friend group of 4 is because this person has recently gotten into a relationship and they wanted to bring their partner with them to watch the opening ceremony. And so that's why they couldn't bring our group of 4, because one of the tickets they wanted to use for their partner. And I think as well, this was like an extra point that hurt me. And I'm not sure if it's common between female friends, but both me and my best friend, we've talked about this. Like my best friend, Myra, she lives in Canada. We've talked about this quite often because as we were growing up, like through our early 20s, we had, like in several cases, we had friends who would get into a relationship and then completely throw their friendship with us out the window. And it's so hurtful anytime that happens. And me and my best friend, this has happened like enough times for us to really make a point, I think, in our own friendships of showing our friends that even if we have a partner, they mean the world to us. And yeah, I haven't had that problem in a while. Like I said, it was my early 20s. Maybe it's just, the growing pains of your first relationships and stuff. But I hadn't had that kind of incident happen to me where another person, like another friend, chose their boyfriend or girlfriend of 2 weeks over a very long-term and important friendship, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, it was just this feeling of not being picked. And I also felt really upset that they picked their partner of like a few weeks over me and the other friend in our friend group. And it really caused, I don't want to say drama, but it definitely caused conflict. And I'm still not okay with what happened. Like, it's hard because I'm like, this friendship, this group means so much to me. And especially when you get older, I feel like you either let go of superficial friendships or, yeah, you let go. And then you also hold your friendships that are really close to your heart. You keep them there. Like, I feel like as you get older, there's this kind of sorting that happens where you spend less time with the people who you have those superficial friendships with, and you really, spend your time and focus and love the friends that are the most important to you. And so, yeah, I was definitely really, really upset by that. Like, it really affected me. I think as well, like, I'm someone who's incredibly loyal. Like, I put my friends, like, the friends that are important to me, I put them before everything. I'm not someone who will ever cancel. I'm someone that you can depend on. Like, I will be there, rain or shine. I go above and beyond. I bend over backwards for my friends. And for the most part, that is reciprocated. I think that's how, like, I might not have a huge quantity of friends, but the friends I do have, are really supportive of me and care about me. So yeah, it was just like shocking. I felt like I'd been blindsided, honestly, because with this friend group, like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about taking a trip all together to Canada so that they could stay with my family and meet my family and see where I'm from. That's how important this group of friends is to me. Like, they mean the world to me. And then to feel like I would choose them, but they wouldn't choose me, felt terrible. So yeah, to be followed. We'll see how it goes. Another really hard thing that happened last week is the reason why my podcast went out on Saturday last week. And it was hard, but it was definitely a reality check, I guess you could say. Essentially, what happened is my channel got flagged, and I'm assuming it's just a computer that checks, or an algorithm that checks accounts and stuff, but my account got flagged for reusing content. And I was really confused by this because, I mean, as you guys know, because you've seen my videos, I don't re-upload videos. Like, every podcast I make is new, every video I make is new, and it's me, it's my content, it's not content that I take from elsewhere. So the email that I got was like really serious, and I broke down in tears. I was broken for 4 or 5 days while this was all being resolved, because even if I own my own business, even if I've created my own business, when I rely on a platform that's out of my control, it's very overwhelming to receive that kind of verdict or that kind of email and feel completely helpless, and your business just crumbled. Because part of this whole decision was I couldn't post on YouTube, and it was very unclear what I could do going forward and stuff, which is why the podcast ended up coming out on Saturday. And so yeah, in the end it did get resolved. I obviously appealed and all that, but it was really devastating for me, because YouTube is the career that I've kind of made for myself. It's what my business is built on. It's something that I have poured myself completely into, that takes up 99% of my time. And then to get this kind of decision, which would be game over. Game over for you on YouTube. It was really overwhelming. And obviously it's normal to wait for an answer and to wait for help and stuff. But it was really hard every single day, feeling like I didn't have a purpose. I felt like I couldn't film. I felt like there was no point, because anything that I created, I couldn't upload and stuff. So yeah, anyways, I don't know. Again, it's it's hard for me to explain. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty and stuff, but it was just it was really hard. And that's why, again, my podcast ended up coming out so late last week. And like I said, I think it was a reality check that even if I own my own business, at the end of the day, it's not, I think it's just something I have to be cautious of, I guess, is that building a business on a platform that isn't my own comes with its own challenges. So yeah, hopefully it's all resolved. Hopefully I won't run into that kind of issue again. And I'll be able to be more consistent with my posting. Okay, some more exciting things. I had my first paddle game with some friends last week. I love paddle tennis. In Toronto, I'll play with my parents and my brother and our paddle tennis friends. Like, I love playing paddle tennis. And in Canada, it's really fun as well because the paddle tennis courts are outdoors and they're also heated, which means that you can play year-round outdoors. And in between the paddle courts, there is like a little hut with a fridge, with an oven, with a stove, which means that it's a very social activity. Like, you can go and play paddle, and again, like, I'm like all about this social, all about my friends. You can go and play paddle and also build relationships and friendships, and I don't know, it's more than just a sport in my opinion. So I had such a good time. We played for our first time in Paris, and the reason why we hadn't gone before is because you typically need to rent the courts, and you have to be 4 to rent a court, and we don't have a lot of friends who like to play paddle. And so finally our friends who do like to play were available, and so we were able to book a court, and it was so much fun, and I vlogged it, and we're gonna go again next week. And yeah, I can't wait to show you guys what the experience of playing paddle tennis is like in Paris, but that was really fun. Something else that's really exciting is tomorrow is my first day of Italian lessons. I'm so excited. I went to like Office Depot when I printed out all of the lesson plans. I got a binder and a pencil case and a highlighter, and it really got me very excited. I'm so excited to start learning. And yeah, I think that I'm going to put in the work now, and in the future when I want to travel or move to Italy, I feel like this is the start of my dream. In my mind, I'm like, okay, Italian lessons, but at the end of it, I see my dream, which I think is why I'm so excited. And then the last thing that was actually really awesome that happened last week is I had a little phone call with George. Something about me is I'm not a good texter. It actually gives me a lot of anxiety. If you have ever sent me a message on Instagram or an email and I haven't answered, or I've taken a really long time to answer, it's not because I don't care. It's because it just gives me an incredible amount of anxiety to answer any form of text message. If you're going to see me in person, like, my phone will be away. I'll be focused on you and our time together. But yeah, when it comes to online technology communication, I'm really bad at it, and it really affects me mentally. And it's hard for people who don't know my personality because they take it very personally when I don't answer. And it takes a couple times of me explaining that I really, really am affected by text messages and emails. And my closest friends get it, and they don't take it personally. They kind of accept this flaw that I have that I'm trying to work on. It used to be a lot worse, but it's definitely a flaw. And so for George is someone that, if you guys don't know who George is the Greek farmer that I met over a year ago, and I spent a month with him, and I filmed like a mini documentary, you could say, of my time harvesting olives with him. And anyways, I've only known George for a year. We are pretty much the same person, just 30 years apart. Like, honestly, we're the same person. It's kind of scary sometimes. And George will send me messages from time to time, and I can't answer them. Like, my anxiety builds up and I can't answer them. And the thing is, I start to make a list because I have so many things that I need to tell him, but I just can't send the message. And so he sent me another message last week, and this was like the 5th message that I hadn't responded to. And I was like, Arielle, it's now or never. You are going to lose this friendship that you have with George and Zeke if you don't get it together. And so I just started sending him these like 15 texts of all of these things that I had to tell him, with all these pictures that I had taken that I wanted to share with him and Zeke. And George probably saw this. It was like, what the heck? and just called me. And so we just had a 15-minute call, just catching up and talking. And they had a small fire actually in the olive tree grove. And so he was telling me about that and like, you know, telling me that everyone was okay and everything. And then one of the first things he says after he tells me the story and, you know, make sure I know that everyone's okay, he's like, when are your flights? When have you booked your flight? When are you coming to see us? We have finished the guest bedroom. When are you coming? And it was like, I just felt, it's like this, it's a friendship that feels genuine. You know, when you have those friendships and you can't tell if, not you can't tell, you can tell if the person is genuine. You can tell if there is a real connection if both people feel the same way about the friendship. Like, hopefully I'm explaining that properly, but George and Zidke are two people where I literally met George and Zidke. I spoke to them for an hour on the guided tour, and I just felt so connected to what they were doing, and I felt I really related to what they were doing, and I'm assuming George and Zidke felt the same because that's how I ended up, after that one moment meeting them, that's how I ended up coming and staying with them for a month and helping them harvest olives. And so anyways, to feel that friendship is reciprocal, to feel, because I constantly think about Greece, I constantly think about going and visiting them, and to feel that that's reciprocated and that they're excited to see me too, and you know, all that, it's such a good feeling. And so yeah, I'm honestly so excited. I definitely am going to go back and I'm going to help them with the harvest this year again. I'm going to film it if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, I almost cried. I was biking through Paris and I was just thinking about having to book my flights and visiting them and going back and seeing everyone, all the farmers and the village, and it almost just made me bawl tears of joy. I am so excited. Honestly, it made my day, the phone call I had with George. Okay, I know I had some questions from you guys, but I forgot to transfer them from my phone to the iPad. So let me pause the video. I'm going to grab the questions and then we'll get into them. Okay, we're good. So the first question is from Fatima, and she says, did you enjoy Celine Dion's performance? She was amazing. She was amazing. I loved her performance. Like I said, I loved the song that she sang. If you guys haven't listened to any of Edith Piaf's songs or L'Hymne à l'amour, I definitely recommend that you do. They're so beautiful. The lyrics are beautiful. Specifically, the song that Celine sang was really about love and what we do for love. And I think it was the perfect song to sing. And of course, again, her sparkling dress on the Eiffel Tower. It was so powerful. I really loved her performance. I thought it was so special. Yeah, it was amazing. Honestly, it was amazing. The next question is from Kareem, who says, did you and Jean get to attend the opening ceremony of Summer Olympics? Oh my God. I think that you guys got the point that I did not go with my friends to go watch the Summer Olympics opening ceremony. And honestly, I'm going to be so honest with you, I am kind of thankful that we didn't end up going because, like I said, it was torrential downpour and 80% of the seats didn't have good visibility. Unless you were at the very front, you really couldn't see anything happening on the Seine. And if you weren't in front of the performances, you were literally just watching the big screens that were installed. So I think it would have been fun to be there for the ambiance, like being with everybody and celebrating this moment together. I think would have been really nice. But I think also watching it on our couch on a TV in a cozy apartment wasn't so bad either. And we really got to see everything. Like they did a good job of, I guess, documenting or reporting on the Olympic ceremony. You really could see everything. And I don't know if it was the same experience for the people who are watching it live and on the big screens. I don't know. I'm sure it was. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I definitely enjoyed watching it from the comfort of my dry apartment. Zoe says the Olympics as a topic. I feel like I've talked a lot about that, but if there's anything else specifically you guys want to talk about when it comes to Olympics, let me know. But I talked a lot about the ceremony, and Jean and I are watching most of the sports. It was actually so nice this weekend. We just watched all the sports. We did our puzzle. It was just a nice, relaxing weekend. And yeah, so we're watching everything. I've got my eye on TikTok and on the news. So if there's specific Olympic topics that you want to hear about, let me know. Robin says, are people concerned about what's happening with US politics? I think that as we get closer to the American elections, it'll be more publicized and more people will be talking about it. Honestly, at the moment, it feels like all eyes are on Paris, all eyes are on the athletes. It's all I see on social media. It's all I see on the news. It's all I see when I watch the news on the TV. It kind of feels like we're living in a bubble. So there isn't a lot of discourse going on at the moment surrounding American politics. But I would imagine as we get closer to the elections, there will be. I mean, I personally see quite a lot because I consume a lot of Anglophone social media and news, so I'm pretty up to date on it. But I can't say a lot of people in France that I know are keeping up to date. I think as well, we just, like in France specifically, we just got through our own political dramas between, the extreme right and, all other parties that kind of united. So again, I think people are exhausted from politics. It's just, when there is anything political, it overwhelms social media. And I think people in France were very overwhelmed with the snap elections, with all of the political discourse. And I think it's a welcome break to be focused on the Olympics at the moment. So yeah, we'll see. As we get closer to the American elections, I think there will be a lot more news coverage. And then the last question is from Aki Paju, who says, could you kindly give some information concerning insurance and rentals? Oh man, okay, this is a topic that I could make several videos of. And in fact, I have made several videos on my main channel. I will leave them linked down below for you, talking about all of that. Health insurance, finding a job, getting an apartment. So I'll leave those linked down below for you. If you want, in the next question box, like next week, if you could maybe add more of a specific question, because I really could talk about the topic of insurance and apartment rentals forever. If you want a quick and short answer, I will say that when it comes to both of those topics, having a job or being enrolled as a student is kind of essential, because you will never be able to get, I don't want to say never, but it's incredibly hard to get anything, like any type of rental in Paris or in France without the landlord seeing that you either have a full-time job so you can pay rent, or you're a student and you've been approved for a French visa and you have your parents that are guarantors. And the same goes for insurance. You'll either maybe have school insurance or you'll have insurance from your job. I think it's very different from other countries. And again, insurance, it's not super clear if you mean like health insurance or home insurance. I don't know. Let me know. Give me some really specific questions and I can answer, because both of these topics, insurance and apartment rentals, are huge. I really could talk forever. But like I said, I'll leave all of the videos that I've already made down below. And even in the comments, you can ask me a question. I can kind of give a more precise answer. But yeah. Voila. Okay, that is all for today's podcast. I'm sorry that it was a mix of topics and kind of all over the place. And yeah, I'm hoping that going forward things will be smooth. I'm hoping that next week the podcast can be out on Monday on time and there won't be any other speed bumps. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting me. And I hope you have a really good week, and I'll see you in the next one.